Hello and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today for Tea Time with Trees. I'm Swati and I'm joined today by my colleague Geeta and our speaker for the day, Pavel Ghosh. This talk is being hosted by SeasonWatch. SeasonWatch is an India-wide initiative where anyone with an interest in watching trees can join and help us understand how the trees are responding to changes taking place in our climate. A very warm welcome to you, Pavel, and a big thanks for speaking to us today. Let's start with a quick introduction for our listeners. Pavel Ghosh is the secretary of WINGS, which is the Durgapur Wildlife Information and Nature Guide Society of West Bengal. WINGS is a citizen science group, and one of the focus area of their work includes building an online database of biodiversity in West Bengal. He also teaches part-time at the PG Department of Conservation Biology in Durgapur Government College, having finished his post-graduation from the same college as a gold medalist. He's a collector. For one, he reported the first orchid, Venda tessellata, from his district. For the other, he collects all sorts of tickets. Yes, tickets, but mostly train tickets, and is a big train fan and can talk about trains for hours on end. But he's here today to talk to us about mangroves of Sundarbans. He's fascinated with mangroves, and this fascination started accidentally, as he calls it, by being forced to go on a trip to Sundarbans. After his first visit, though, a love affair with the mangroves started, which he would keep returning to. He's completely taken by the habitat, the diverse floral forms, and how much there is to find out about the mangrove forests of Sundarbans. So, without more delay, I invite Pavel to take us on a wondrous journey through the mangroves. Over to you now, Pavel.
Swati. Good evening to everyone. Today, I really feel very lucky to present my word before all of you. Uh, Before that, I'm seeking apology before all of you because I have some problem in internet connections over here. So, I might have some audio glitches, but I will try my best. Okay, just moving on to my work. So you can see this is a picture of a mangrove forest. It's not actually forest. It's somewhat north of actual Sundarbans. Uh, well, okay. So this is the map of Sundarbans. We all know that the Sundarbans deltaic region, it extends across two nationalities across India and Bangladesh. Most of the present Sundarbans is present in Bangladesh. Almost 62% of the jurisdiction of Sundarbans extend in Bangladesh, whereas the remaining 38% is within India. So just let's take a glance at the points of Sundarbans. It's the world's largest single block of mangrove forest. 66% of Sundarbans comprise of land in all senses, including the intertidal zones. As we obviously know that Sundarban is product of intertidal activities, whereas the rest are where the rest is comprised of water bodies. 62% of Sundarbans come under Bangladeshi jurisdiction. It's circa 6,010 square kilometer, whereas the remaining 8% is under Indian jurisdiction. In India, Sundarbans has been provided protection under 6 protected areas, namely Shojinekhali and Sundarbans National Park, both together forming the Tiger Reserve, the West Sundarbans Wildlife Sanctuary, Halliday Island Wildlife Sanctuary, Lothian Island Wildlife Sanctuary, and the only crocodile project in West Bengal, that's Bhagabur Crocodile Project. Whereas in Bangladesh, there are 4 protected areas: Sundarbans East, Sundarbans West, Sundarbans South, and the most recent Chatpai Wildlife Sanctuary. The entire Sundarban region comprises of 102 islands, out of which 54 are human inhabited, while the rest are completely forested. Now, Sundarbans was declared as a biosphere reserve, most commonly known as SBR, in 1970. It comprises an area of sorry, it was not declared in 1970. It was declared somewhere in 1980s, and the area total covered is 9,630 square kilometers. And as we all know, Sundarbans is known for the Royal Bengal tigers, the only mangrove tigers of the world. It was declared to be a tiger reserve on 23rd of December 1970. And this is the UNESCO Heritage Monument situated at Neti Dhopani camp of Sundarbans Tiger Reserve on west side. Indian Sundarbans attained the status of a World Heritage Site in 1987, whereas the Bangladeshi part was conferred the same title almost a decade later in 1997. However, Bangladesh had already designated their portion of Sundarbans as a Ramsar wetland on 21st of May 1992, whereas India had decided to confer the Ramsar's status to Sundarbans almost 27 years later on 30th of January 2019. So let's just move on to the ecoregion. Sundarbans is one of the largest ecoregions present in India as well as the world, and it has two main components. Normally, when we speak of Sundarbans, the first image that we get is of mangroves. Yes, it obviously comprises of mangroves, which is nearly about 20,400 square kilometers. But it has another sub-ecoregion as well, that is of freshwater swamps. This particular ecoregion is more concentrated in Bangladesh than in India, but this freshwater swamp region in India is of immense importance because most of the rivers that drain through Indian Sundarbans actually originate from these freshwater swamps. We all have read during our childhood days in our school days that Sundarbans is a product of Ganga Brahmaputra delta region. It's basically true, but in the West Bengal side, only one river system has direct connection with the Ganga Brahmaputra system, that is Ichamoti Raimongal system. The rest of the rivers originate from these swamps. So this is very important in respect to Sundarbans. However, this freshwater swamp is poorly protected in both of the countries, with only one protected area in West Bengal and one in Bangladesh. So this is the biodiversity picture of Sundarbans. At present, we have 334 of plants, species of plants, almost 9 species of fungi, although the study is incomplete. Mammals, we have 42 species. Birds, we have 270 species. Reptiles, we have 35 species. Fishes, 150 species. And amphibians, 8 species. There may be some mistakes in these figures, but I have tried my level best, but there may be some discrepancies as well, especially in the case of the faunal biodiversity. If there is some discrepancy, please do correct it. Okay, now moving on to the main part of the show today, that's the major flora of Sundarbans. Before we move on to major flora of Sundarbans, I just want to clarify 2 points. In Sundarbans or in any other mangrove region, there are two type of plants. One is true mangrove, and the other one is mangrove associates. Normally, true mangroves are those plants which are exclusively limited to mangrove regions only. You can't find those particular species of plants in some other area, in some other ecoregion. But mangrove associates are the plants which can be found both in mangrove region and in certain non-mangrove regions as well. So I have tried to put most of the true mangrove species here, but I have also included some important mangrove associates in this list. So we are just moving on to that portion. Okay, so just before I start with this pictorial presentation, I would like to clarify that none of the pictures have been clicked by me. This is because I lost most of the pictures of these plants due to a technical glitch. So I had to download them from Google. So the pic clicked by me. Okay, so this is Acanthus ilicifolius, one of the true mangroves. You can't find this plant out of mangroves. This belongs to the family Acanthaceae, that is the family of family of medicinal plants like what should I say? I don't know the proper Hindi or other name. It's Adhatura vasica. Vasak, I guess it's in Hindi. In Bengali, Bashok. So this belongs to that family, and in English we commonly call it holy mangrove. in Bengali we call it Horgoja. Why have I provided the Bengali name here? Is that if you ever visit Sundarban in future and if you want to locate or identify these plants, you would need the help of the local people, and the local people won't know the name, English trivial name or the scientific name. So just uh, try to take up the Bengali names before them, and they will show you these plants. And the IUCN status of this plant is of least concern. So it's abundantly available, and it's available on both sides, on Indian and Bangladeshi sites. This is yet another member of Acanthus volubilis, commonly known as sea holly. The Bengali name is Lota Horgoja since it's a climber. So it's Lota. Lota in Bengali means climber. The IUCN status is least concern. Okay, so this is a fern. This fern is common in mangrove areas. It is commonly known as Acrosticum aureum. Sorry, scientifically it is known as Acrosticum aureum. Common name is golden leather fern or mangrove fern. The Bengali name is Hodo, and again it's of least concern. Okay. This is one of the true mangrove species. It's Aegialitis rotundifolia. As you all can see that the leaves, the flower picture is not provided over here. The flower is somewhat round in shape. So it's known as rotundifolia. Okay. In Bengali, it's known as Toda. It does not have any common name. This is because this plant is limited to India only, and South Asia only, so it does not have any English name, and the IUCN status is near threatened. So this plant is important from the aspect of conservation. Okay, so this is one of the most interesting plants, or one of the plants of interest for the local people of Sundarbans. It's Aegicerus cornuculatum. Locally, it's known as Kholshi. Uh, if you have visited Sundarban, or you might be knowing, even if you have not visited Sundarban, that Sundarban honey is one of the best quality of honey that found on the planet. It's exported outside India. So that particular fragrance, that particular flavor of that honey comes from the nectar of this particular flower. This time, that is in April and May, this is the timing of blooming of flowers. It has an excellent smell, and it attracts the bees, and they will take the nectar of this plant, and then they will for the formation of that Sundarban honey. Okay, so this is Avicennia alba, normally known as Piara vine. Whenever you will go to Sundarbans, you will find this tree growing abundantly on the edges of the larger rivers. And you can see the new metaphors as well. They are the new metaphors are present just beneath the tree. The IUCN status of this plant is also least concern. So this is the second species of Avicennia. There are almost 5 species of Avicennia present in India. Out of that, 3 species are found in Sundarbans. Normally, this is known as grey mangrove, and this particular plant is uh, known as kala vine because it has a black bark. Kala is black, and the IUCN status is least concern. And this is the third species of Avicennia. It's known as Indian mangrove, and in Bengal it's known as Radvine. Okay, so this is Bruguera cylindrica. It's known as white Burma mangrove. In Bengali, it's known as Bokul Khakhra. Why is it known as Khakhra? Khakhra is the Bengali word for crabs. So the flower of this particular plant looks somewhat like a crab. If the mature flower falls down on the ground and it stays like that, people is sure to mistake it with a crab. Normally red crabs are found in Sundarbans abundantly, and this flower is also somewhat reddish to white, light red. So people will more often mistaken this flower with crabs. So it's known as Bokul Kakra. People who are present here from West Bengal, don't confuse it with normal Bokul. The normal Bokul tree is Mimosaps elengi, which is found in the mainland, and it has no connection with this plant. Okay, so this is the second species of Bruguera. It's known as Kakra. Just look at the flower; it looks like a crab. When it uh, when it falls down on the mangrove mud flats and it stays over there, it just look like as if there is a group of crab walking on that mud flat. The fourth species of Bruguera, that's Khakhra tree, and the third species, and it is the fourth species. So most of these flowers look alike, and you will need the help of the local people to distinguish between this particular species. Okay, so this is a less found plant. This is normally known as Amur or Alaya cucullata. You will not find this plant enough in Indian Sundarbans. Okay, so this is uh, uh, called Lata Sundari, Brownloya tarsa, and this is a near threatened plant. And this plant somewhat resembles Hedipira, that is Sundari, the tree that gives the name of Sundarbans. Okay, so more often people mistake this plant with a mango tree. This is known as Cerbera mangas and commonly known as sea mango. It is also of least concern. You find this plant growing abundantly on the edges of Sundarbans. Okay, coming to yet another true mangrove. This is Cereops decandra, normally known as Goran in Bengali, Jele Goran or Jhamti Goran, and its IUCN status is near threatened. You will find this plant on edges of rivers, big rivers, and also on the edges of the canals, the channels of the Sundarbans. This plant is very important because this particular plant ha- uh, has a status near threatened, but this plant is one of the important like keystone species of the mangrove in Sundarbans or in any other mangroves. Now, what is keystone species? Just let me explain a keystone species, a species that influences the population of other species as well. Like tiger. Just for example, tiger is a keystone species. Normally, uh, if if tiger is alienated from Sundarbans, other species will also get decimated. Why? Because people go to Sundarbans mostly to see these tigers, and if people stop going there, then there will be no importance of Sundarbans left, and local people will start killing of those other animals. So this is keystone species, a species that somewhat influences the growth of other species. So this is yet another Cereops, and this is known as Mott Goran. Now, why is it known as Mott Goran in Bengali? Mott means monastery in Bengali. Okay, and the canopy of this plant, sorry, so the foliage of this plant looks somewhat like the dome of a monastery. This is Dalbergia Spinoza, and it is one of the rarest plants of Sundarbans. You will find them in deeper parts, normally not accessible. Okay, so this is one of the most important climber species that are present in Sundarbans. It is known as Deris, and in Bengali it's known as Kalilata because its stem is black. Another species of Deris. Okay, so this is one of the most abundant plants of Indian Sundarban. It's Excocaria agallocha, commonly known as Geva. Why is this plant so important? First of all, when you are near this plant, be careful. The latex of this plant is very harmful for your eyes. If it falls, if even a drop of that latex falls on your eyes, sap, you are going to turn blind. And the stems of this plant, they are very hard. Normally when the fishermen in Sundarbans, they venture out into the tiger infested islands for collection of honey and crabs, they carry with them a stick of geva tree, because that particular stick is so hard that if they beat the tiger with that particular stick, the tiger flees from that place. There are several incidents when a sure shot human prey have been saved because he had beaten that with this stick of this plant. So this plant is very important. This is Finlaysonia obovata. This plant is found more towards the western parts of Sundarban, and it has got a milky latex. That's why it's known as Dudhilata, because Dud means milk. This is a grass species, very commonly found in the freshwater swamps of Sundarbans. Okay, this is Turmeric Dioica. This particular plant is found uh, on the islands, which face directly the Bay of Bengal, the coast of Bay of Bengal. Normally, you won't get to see this plant because civilians are not allowed to the islands of Sundarbans that has got a coast of Bay of Bengal, because they are parts of the core area. Civilians are not allowed inside the core area of Sundarbans. This particular picture was taken from Bangladeshi side of Sundarbans. This is Xylocarpus granatum, locally known as Dhundul, and this is Poshur. Yet another important tree of Sundarbans, because many of the rivers of Sundarbans have been named after this particular tree. This tree is very abundant on the edges of the island, inner islands of Sundarbans, not the outer ones. Okay, so this is the most, the celebrity plant of Sundarban. This is Heritaria fomes, locally known as Sundari, and from this particular plant, Sundarbans was named Sundarbans, because Sundari means a beautiful lady in Bengali. So this particular tree is the tree after which Sundarbans have been named. Now, this species very rare on the Indian side of Sundarbans. This is because of the fact that I'm just telling you in gist that we all know about the tectonic activities, and India is situated on the Indian plate. So due to the tectonic activities of of excuse me Indian plate, the Bengal basin is slowly tilting towards the east, and due to this incline, due to this tilting, most of the fresh water of the bigger glacial rivers that feed Sundarbans, they are getting diverted towards the eastern part of Sundarbans, that is Bangladesh. And so Heritaria is almost intolerant to salts. So the population of Heritaria forms have declined in Indian side almost zero, and they are found only on the eastern islands of Bangladeshi Sundarbans. This is the second species of Heritaria. This particular species of Heritaria is somewhat more tolerant to salt water, slightly more than Heritaria forms, and this can be found in very low numbers in the Indian side. If you want to see a Heritaria forms tree, you can visit in future. You can visit the nature interpretation center of Sojnekhali Wildlife Sanctuary. There you can see a plant growing, a Heritaria littoralis plant growing over. This is a hibiscus, so important plant. Okay, this is Godia tree, Candelia candel. This particular plant is more frequent on the West Indian Sundars, the mangroves that grow on the western coasts of India, in Maharashtra, in Karnataka. Okay, this one is comparatively less common in the mangroves of eastern coast. People from Kolkata, if you are present over here, just take this as a knowledge and extra knowledge. The Godia neighborhood of Kolkata is named after this particular plant. Okay, this is Lumnizera racemosa, locally known as Kripa, a small plant. Another grass of Sundarbans. Okay, so this is one of the most important plants of Sundarbans. This is known as Gol Pata, although the leaves are not circular. Normally, we know that circle is known as Gol in Hindi or Bangla. This plant is also more concentrated towards the Bangladeshi side of Sundarban. This is less frequent in Indian Sundarbans. And the reason is same, that is salinity, increased salinity on the Indian side of Sundarbans. Okay, so this plant is a very important ecological role. This is Phoenix paludosa. So basically of the same genus of the date palm, the date that we eat. But this particular plant, locally known as Hedal, is very important in Sundarbans because this is the most preferred site of hiding for the Bengal tigers in Sundarbans. Just look at the texture of the plant. You can see that some of the mature leaves, they have turned yellow, whereas immature leaves are still green. It somewhat gives the black and yellow shade that we have on a tiger. So this particular tree is of great importance for tigers, and these trees normally grow in these are shrubs. Normally they don't grow very tall. They are found in bunches in certain areas, and those particular zones are marked as Bagher Bari, which in Bangla means the house of the tigers, the home of the tigers. So as you can see this picture, that a tiger is peeping out through the forest of these hetal trees, and this tree is of immense importance. Whenever you are visiting Sundarbans, the boatmen will try to spend more of time near near this particular bush, because you have better chances of sighting a tiger in these areas. Okay, this is wild rice, not so common. This is Rhizophora mucronata, locally known as gorgon. It is one of the most important true mangrove species. The second species of Rhizophora, Rhizophora apiculata, also known as gorgon. Okay, this plant is again of importance because this plant is edible. Just post partition, when refugees from eastern Bengal they started pouring in inside the Sundarban regions of India, they made this plant edible, and I don't know people eat them right now. Locally known as Jodu Palong, this particular plant grows abundantly on the fresh alluvium mudflats of Sundarbans. This is yet another plant that grows on the flatter mudflats. Okay, this is Keura tree, Sonaricia apetala. The second species of Keura. The third species of Keura. Okay, so this is Guilandina bonduk. Very commonly found in southern India because this is mainly a plateau plant, but also found in mangrove areas, normally known as Nikar nut. Okay, this is another true mangrove species. This is Dolicodron spathecia, commonly known as Gorshinga. So this particular plant is found inside deeper Sundarbans. Normally, you won't get this plant on the edges of Sundarbans. So what happens that if you want to see this plant, you have to risk your life. So there are very rare photographs of Sundarban uh, counterparts of this particular species. This is Sarcolobus globosus. It's a climber plant, and this is known as Shingara plant. Shingara in Bangla is, in Bengali it means samosa. So the plant somewhat, the fruit somewhat resembles samosas. So this is known as Shingara. This is a true mangrove species. A plant, a tree, sorry, a grass. It's mangrove sage, and it grows on the fresher parts of Sundarbans. Okay, so that was the series of slides for the pictorial slides. Now coming to somewhat a bit complicated part of Sundarbans. Why are this is the map which shows the zonation. So why is there a zonation of vegetation in Sundarbans? This is because of the difference in sea. As you can see, the eastern parts which are more green, they have heritidia forms in greater numbers, whereas uh, salt tolerant like Echocaria and Cereops, they are found on the western parts. And this particular zonation is because of the fact that there is a difference in salinity. And this difference in salinity, as I've told you earlier, is due to the geomorphological situation in Bengal. Most of the fresh water of the glacial rivers, uh, they are getting drained towards the eastern parts of Sundarbans, and this has allowed the sea waters to enter further inside the western parts of Sundarbans, thus making the western parts of the mangroves more salty than the eastern part. So the salt tolerant species are found more on the eastern parts, on the western parts, whereas the salt intolerant plants are found in the eastern part of Sundarban. So this is the change. This map denotes the change in the vegetation pattern. As you can see, in 1977, more parts were colonized by Heritiera, but now Heritiera has is slowly getting confined towards further east, and this is all due to the change in salinity of Sundarbans. Okay, now coming to the conclusion. So the conclusion part is perhaps the most important part of this presentation. Sundarbans formed the first line of defense of Bengal basin against the cyclonic storms. People present over present now in this Zoom session who are aware of the cyclonic activities in the past 3 years, you would see that most of the cyclones coming towards Bengal, that's West Bengal and Bangladesh, they get the first obstruction of movement from Sundarbans. Last year in November, cyclone Bulbul, it hit the western parts of Sundarbans. It's in Bokhali. Uh, Bokhali is a part of Sundarbans which is now inhabited by the humans. It has almost zero mangroves in it. And if you had visited Bokhali in the past few months just after the cyclones, you could have noticed that despite being a part of Sundarbans, Bokhali and Fraserganj was ravaged by the cyclone. Why? Only because this part had a lack of mangroves, whereas the western parts of Sundarbans was saved. Only minor damage. Why? Because the mangrove forest had bore the brunt of this cyclone. So, entire coastal Bengal and the neighboring northeast India is saved by this natural shield. If Sundarbans get eliminated, just prepare for a day when Bengal would be ravaged even by nor'wester winds. Not We don't need cyclones. Nor'wester winds would be enough to ravage the southern part of Bengal. And as we all know, that one new cyclone is brewing up in the Bay of Bengal region. We hope that this particular cyclone avoids Bengal or avoids India. But in case it makes in case its route cross Bengal, it would have to face Sundarbans. I guess Sundarbans will be the savior once again. Sundarbans house one of the most important and biodiverse regions of the globe. It is the only abode of mangrove tigers on planet Earth, with several other marsh-lived parts of mainland species, which is an unique feature. You will find tigers, deers, wild boars anywhere in India, but why are the Sundarban counterparts so special? This is because the same species, without undergoing any subspeciation as of now, have perceived successfully on those islands. They have survived on those islands. They have learned how to survive on such a harsh terrain. Normally we will find tigers in dry parts of central India, in the drier parts of northern India, but in Sundarbans the ground is not dry throughout the year. If you ever if you ever get yourself clogged in that mud, you will understand how much inaccessible that particular terrain is. But these animals have learned how to survive. Now if Sundarbans gets deforested, these animals will die, and eventually we will miss a a chance of learning the habitat, the living, the survival patterns of these animals in nature. So it's a very ecosystem. A loss of Sundarbans will lead to a loss of huge biodiversity. Sundarbans provide livelihood to nearly 20 million people, directly or indirectly. A loss of this particular direct region or its resources would render so many people deprived of their livelihood options. The people who live in Sundarbans, they are directly dependent on Sundarbans for their livelihood. Normally, people, they earn by selling the crabs, by selling the fishes, by selling Sundarban honey, or they do some agricultural activities, because those are one of the most fertile regions of Bengal. So if Sundarbans is lost, maybe due to deforestation or by global warming, these people will lose their chance of survival. So that would be not that would not be a very good sign for the economy of our country. And finally, Sundarbans have always provided resistance against the inward progression of Bengal. Loss of mangroves have already led to loss of several coastal mangrove delta and can wreak havoc if not checked immediately. So these mangroves, they have actually provided a natural resistance against the inward progression of Bay of Bengal. Once, if we lose these mangroves, we can't stop Bay of Bengal from coming northwards inside the Bengal Basin. And what will happen in that case, that we will lose several hectares of good land, several hectares of fertile land, and also parts that would not get submerged would also be affected, because once saline water starts entering into the into the water table, so it will cause depletion of fertility of that particular soil. So that brings us to the end of the presentation. But before we end this presentation, I just want to ponder upon some points like Sundarbans is a part, those who are from botany background, they are quite aware of the biogeography or the phytogeography terms. Normally, Sundarbans is a part of the Indo-Malaysian uh, biogeographical region, or the Indo-Malaysian mangrove province. Okay, so there are several mangrove provinces around the world, and Indo-Malaysia or Indo-Andaman in some books. This particular mangrove province is a part of Indo-West Pacific group of Indo-West Pacific region of biogeography. So if people who are present over here are from botany background, just keep this in your mind that all of the mangroves of eastern coast of India, they are part of Indo-Malaysia group of mangroves, and these mangroves are the most biodiverse mangroves of the world. Almost 90% of the mangrove species that are found on the earth today are found in the mangroves of Southeast Asia, and almost 60% in Sundarbans. So that is very important in terms of biodiversity. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Pavel, for that very
Okay,
informative
thanks
talk.
Pavi, for that very informative talk.
Hello, sorry for that. Okay, yes. So there are some questions that people are asking. So what I will do is I'll ask the questions to you, and maybe you can respond. Once I ask the question, I'll unmute you so that you can uh, take it up and respond. So the first question is by Crystal. She, or I'm sorry, the question is, will the mangrove in Goa have similar flora, similar to the Sundarbans?
Sundarbans.
Okay, as the question actually, just now I told you that the mangroves of eastern coast and the mangroves of western coast, they actually belong to two different mangrove provinces. That doesn't mean that you would have nothing in common. Almost 60 to 70% of the species would be common, or more than that even. Few one or two species may be different. Okay, like as I have told you that there are 5 species of Rhizopora in West Bengal, sorry, in India. Two of them are normally found in southern and western India. So there can be some more species, or there can be less species, but almost 80 to 90% of the species would be same.
Okay, thanks. So the next question is by Debayan. He asks, can you please share one of your memorable experience in Sundarban? He has another question, so I'll say that also. The second question is, what are the variety types of breeding roots found in mangroves?
Uh, in Sundarbans, there are two main type of there are three main type of breathing roots. Okay, one is crop root, steel root, and the third one is pneumatophores. Normally pneumatophores are the most common type of breathing roots that are found over found in Sundarbans. Okay, and in some cases those breathing roots can grow up to a height of a normal adult human being. And crop roots and steel roots, they are mostly defense mechanisms. They are not like breathing roots, but pneumatophores are very commonly breathing roots. And memorable moment in Sundarbans, I can remember that memorable moment. Okay, so I could remember one instance last year when I visited Sundarbans in November. Uh, I saw that particular plant I told you, the Golpata, Nipa fruticans, for the first time in its natural habitat in near, I guess it was in Shudhannokhali, if I'm not wrong. So that was indeed a very memorable moment. It would have been more memorable if I would have seen a Royal Bengal tiger or Heritiria forms, both very rare to be seen. Uh, but okay, it was still memorable.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
So the
So the
Yes. So the next question is from Rafiq. He asks if sea mango is edible.
No, sea mango is not at all edible. It resembles mango, but it has no I mean, no edible properties. So people don't normally eat that sea mango.
So Mittal asks the next question. The question is mangrove trumpet pollinated by bats?
Okay, I'm not very sure about this because Sundarbans, I have not seen so many of bats in Sundarbans, in case of Sundarbans, but I'm not very much knowledgeable about this one. I have to do some research. Maybe or may not be, I don't know. But in Sundarbans, most of the plants, they are pollinated by water, not by animals or by wind. Sorry, not by animals, mostly by water, some by air. So I have to take some more knowledge on that. I'm sorry, I couldn't answer this one.
So the next question is, there are two questions actually, but they're related from Neha and Nishita. They ask what is the current decline of mangrove habitat in Sundarbans?
Okay, Sundarbans was once found up to Calcutta, and now it has receded back almost by 70 kilometers. So it can actually give us the picture that how much decline we have experienced in Sundarbans. The western parts of Sundarbans extensively colonized by human beings, so there are only plantation mangroves, very few natural mangroves. And within Sundarban itself, there has been a loss of, as I have told you, loss of salt tolerant salt intolerant mangroves in India because of decreasing freshwater flow. So in Bangladesh also, the Sundarbans have receded almost by 100 kilometers. And in Bangladesh, you will find some sort of freshwater mangroves, but in India, they are almost next to zero, negligible.
Okay. So another related question from Nishita, which is what are the possible reasons other than global warming that is threatening the existence of Sundarbans?
Okay. The number one danger that Sundarban poses to itself is mass, the human beings. Those Sundarbans have been declared as a biosphere reserve, and almost 80%, almost around 90% of Sundarbans have been brought under protection measures, but there are still illegal trafficking of flora and fauna from Sundarbans, especially from the Bangladeshi part of Sundarbans. So that is indeed one of the most dangerous aspects that we have in Sundarbans. Moreover, uncontrolled tourism in Sundarbans, which is again more rampant in Bangladeshi side, but also very much present on the Indian side. If you ever visit the Indian Sundarbans, you will find thermocol plates floating on the rivers, find bottles, plastic bottles. So people are not very much aware. The people who visit Sundarbans, they are not very much aware of the problems that are present in Sundarbans. So that's one of the biggest problems that threatening Sundarbans. Apart from this, as I told you, the change in salinity have also threatened Sundarbans because some of the plants are growing are endangered in Sundarbans. Just like I told you that some of the freshwater plants.
So there is a question from Sharan. He asks, how do mangroves address pollution in other parts of India, like coastal cities such as Chennai, and what should we plant there?
Okay, mangroves are perhaps the biggest sewage treatment plants of plants that are present on Earth. We have sewage treatment plants that are built artificially, but these are naturally occurring sewage treatment plants. If you go to Navi Mumbai, if you go to Chennai, even Sundarbans situated at the backdrop of Calcutta, these particular rivers form excellent grounds of sewage treatment naturally. What shall we plant? You can plant anything, but not exotic plants. Try to find out which plants are more abundant in your region and try to plant those particular species. And like you can go to the ENVIS page of Botanical Survey of India, and there you can find a comprehensive list of the mangroves that are found in India with their zones in India, that which particular species are found in which particular region of India. So you can go through that and you can plant those particular species. But try that there shall be no exotic species planting in that particular region, because exotic species, wherever they are present, they damage the ecosystem.
Okay, thanks. So there are some questions related to germination techniques that can be used for mangrove species. So people are asking how they can grow mangrove species.
Mangrove species.
First of all, mangroves have some typical requirements. You can't grow mangrove anywhere. Just for example, I am from the Chota Nagpur plateau region. Okay, my place is in Chota Nagpur, so I tried to grow mangrove plants over here, and I terribly failed. So there are some basic requirements of mangrove plantations, like you have to provide properly aerated soils, alluvium soils especially. So farming techniques normally you are not allowed to take out those plants from Sundarbans, but if you manage to get the plant seeds from there, most of the mangrove plants they germinate viviparously. So you will get the viviparous mode of germination. Just take that sapling and plant it anywhere. Normally, these mangrove plants are adapted to grow without any sort of human sophistication. So they can grow anywhere, but just make it sure that they get a mangrove-like soil over there. They can't grow anywhere because these plants are specially adapted in mangroves, so they can't grow any. Like I told you, true mangroves. True mangroves are limited only inside mangrove regions only, so you can't grow them anywhere. That's a major hindrance. But if you want to grow, you have to make sure that the ambience is like mangroves, the soil, air.
Okay, so next question is Heritera formis dominant species in the mangroves? Sorry, I forget who asked that question. But yeah, you can take it up.
No, it's not the dominant species, but maybe in the past it could have been one of the dominant species. That's why Sundarban was in its name. But as of now, it's not the dominant species because, as I have told you in the presentation, one of the two species is threatened. So it's very less in number, and that too confined in only some parts of eastern Sundarbans, or there are chances that you can find Delta forms toward the center of the Indian islands, because those particular regions don't get flooded by the tides and they have rainwater pool, so they can get some fresh water. But the problem in Sundarbans is that you can't get to the center of those islands because these islands are heavily infested by man-eating tigers or tigers that hunt on human beings. So you can't be very much sure about their dominance, the status of dominance, but the part of Sundar that's visible to us, it's not at all dominant species. Okay, Triops and Rhizophora, they are much more dominant, at least on the Indian side.
Chinmay asks, is mangrove whistler an endemic bird of the mangrove forests?
Okay, actually, I am not from a zoology background, and I don't have idea about birds. But as far as I know, these particular birds are found in and around the mangrove areas. They can't be called endemic because they occur in several countries. But if you go by the ecosystem, they may be endemic, but I'm not very much sure about that because I am totally from a botanical background and I don't have so much idea of plants and animals. Sorry, animals. I can tell about plants, but anyone who is present over here who is from have an idea of ornithology can help you. I guess some people can.
So there's one more question from Akshatra. She asks, could you tell us how to identify B. cylindrica and B. gymnorrhiza in vegetative condition? Hi Pavel, I'm not sure if you got the question. So Akshatra asks, could you tell us how to identify B. cylindrica and B. gymnorrhiza in vegetative condition?
Okay, yeah. When you will visit Sundarbans, you can see that those particular trees have flowers round the year. Okay, so B Silica and B Bruguera, both all of the species of Bruguera can be easily identified by seeing their flower. If you want to differentiate between the two particular species, you have to look at the leaves. The latter one has brighter leaves, while the former one has comparatively less brighter leaves. And all the Bruguera plants, they have typical type of like flower that grow around the year. Okay.
Okay, thanks so much, Pavel. Thanks for this wonderful talk and taking so many questions. So that's all the time we have today. Thanks everyone for joining in. If you have any more questions for Pavel, you can send those questions to us at sw@seasonwatch.in. I'll type the email in the chat box so you have it, and we'll make sure that he receives them, and we hopefully send you the answers. So thanks everyone again for joining us. Goodbye until the next session in this series.
Goodbye. Thank you.